Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the District of Brown Deer School Board meeting. I'd like to be able to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Verification of public notice. The meeting was publicly noticed. Verification of a quorum. We do have all 7 of our board members in attendance. Approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Dr. Vito, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. The motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. All right, motion has been made and seconded. Any conversation before we go to vote? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye. Leader would be an aye. Okay, I can see your hand.
Oh.
All right, so motion carries unanimously 7-0. All right, and let's go to, not a problem. All right, and let's go to our mission statement. Together with our families and community, we will inspire students to be passionate learners, creative thinkers, and innovative leaders who enrich our world. All right, let's go on now to, before we go to our district administrator's report, I would like to let individuals in the public know that public comments are this evening. If you do have a public comment, please go to our chat box and put your name and your address and your comment so that we can monitor that. So when we come to that part, you can be publicly noticed. Your comments are only up to 3 minutes. Remember, these are comments and not questions, ladies and gentlemen. These are comments, not questions, and there's a 3-minute limit. But you do have to go into our chat and put your name and your address into the chat. And Ms. Robinson will be monitoring that chat when we get to that part. Thank you very much. So now let's go on to item number 2, our district communications, our district administrator's report. Dr. Kelsey Brown, please.
Thank you, Dr. Vito. Good evening, community, Brown Deer community. Just a few updates in terms of what I have been working on as a district administrator. I had an opportunity to attend a district administrators leadership institute last week, which provided an opportunity for me to network with other superintendents from across the country, and then understand many of the cutting edge, innovative and creative ideas going on in the realm of education, and an opportunity for professional development for myself. And so that was, I would say, one of the best conferences I have actually attended, and so was able to bring back some very pertinent information to what we have going on here in our district from a socio-emotional, from the socio-emotional standpoint, safety standpoint, as well as academics. So I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to attend that professional development session. Our priority at the moment is staffing. So everyone, including cabinet members and building level administrators, are working feverishly to ensure we are fully staffed for fully staffed with certified teachers for the upcoming school year. And so that has been a daily occurrence for us. And our hope is that we will be fully staffed moving forward beginning September 1. Mr. Klemick, Ms. Schmeiska, and myself, we met with Chief Nimmer a couple weeks ago about our emergency operations plan. So there's some pieces that are being shored up in that area. That was a really good meeting. And I look forward to collaborating with the Chief of Police and the Brown Deer Police Department as we move forward in the realm of safety. I also met with Josh Delahan, who's one of our parents, who has an organization entitled New Leaf Therapies, working with us in the SEL, socio-emotional realm, who will be providing support to the elementary school in terms of employing strategies to help students regulate behaviors in the classroom. That was actually a plan that had begun prior to COVID. And once COVID hit, we all know it interrupted lots of things. So in my conversation with Mr. Delahan, we believe we can get back on track with what we were going to start before COVID, or we were going to begin prior to COVID, mostly at the elementary school and some work at the Village Academy as well. We are in the throes of looking at our Spark Hire interviews to select a director of pupil services, our new director of pupil services. As we all know, Mrs. Antandari went on to greater heights. We are looking to have in-person interviews on August 3rd from 1 to 5 in person at the district, and hopefully be able to bring a candidate to the board at the board retreat on August 5th. And with that, we continue to plan for the upcoming school year as we work to open our doors September 1st for all students here in the school district of Brown Deer. And if there are any questions I can answer, please let me know.
Board members, any questions for Dr. Kelsey Brown in relationship to the information she just shared? Ms. Ashley?
Yes, regarding the Spark Hire, is that a kind of a headhunter deal, or who?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's a great question. So Spark Hire interviews are an electronic platform. They're one-way interviews. So what we do is we send a link to the candidates with a series of questions that we would like for them to respond to. And then from there, we then narrow down our 3 to 4 candidates that we would like to bring into in-person interview process. It helps streamline the process, if you will. If you recall, in the olden days, I'll call them, we used to do several tiers of interviews and they were all in person. This helps us work a little more efficiently in terms of who we want to select. We review the application, send out the Spark Hires, and then we have the in-person interviews. A great question, Ms. Ashley. Thanks for asking.
Board members, any other questions for Dr. Kelsey Brown from our administrator's update? All right, hearing and saying none, thank you very much. Now we're on to our item 3, our public comments. Ms. Robinson, do we have anyone in the chat?
No, we don't, not at this time.
All right, as usual, what we will do is we will give that one more moment. We always want to be able to ensure that our public does have that opportunity to have their comments voiced during our regularly scheduled board meeting. Okay.
So,
All right. Let's move forward then to our item 4, our consent agenda. Would someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Beto, this is Felita Daniels. Ashley, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the minutes of the June 14th, 2022 special board meeting, the minutes of the June 28th, 2022 regular board meeting, the schedule of voucher payments via check, ACH, and wire transfers, and the amount of $835,280.90 in the general checking account and the food service account, including funds 10, 21, 27, 39, 47, 49, 50, 72, and 80, and the July 26, 2022 school safety drill as presented.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ashley. That was definitely a mouthful. So thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I will second Dr. Beto.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Oh, all right. All right. Our speakers and microphone working this time. All right. Good job, Lisa. Good job. All right. With that being said, any questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye. All right. Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. All right. Let's go on to item number 5, items for discussion, consideration, and possible board action. The dual enrollment programs. Would that be Dr. Garrison? I'm sorry. Dr. Garrison?
Yes, Dr. Beadle and members of the school board. At our last board meeting, we discussed some of our educational opportunities here in the Brown Deer School District. The board did ask me to go back and present some information as it pertains to some of our opportunities in our ECCP program, our our Start College Now program and our Dual Enrollment Academies program. A presentation was shared with you all. I will share that presentation now. Give me 1 second to share the screen. And this was the outcome of the conversation. Naturally, I do have one person with me today that's going to help me kind of answer questions afterwards if there are any questions. Mrs. Jenny Appleby, who is our high school guidance counselor. And as an overview, as we discussed at our last conversation, early college credit program and what it offers, our Start College Now program and what it offers, along with our MATC Dual Enrollment Academies programs and what it offers. Naturally, we did discuss the costs, and we see that there's a different cost for different programs. Overall, our goal is to increase this number for our students here in the Brown Deer School District, which brings us to the participation slide that you see here. Over the years, as you can tell, we have consistently added more students to all of the programs, I should say, across the board. Starting the year before my entrance, 2019, 2020, there was 7, 5, and then of course 0. And of course, as you can tell, over the past 2 years going into this school year, we have 14, 12, and 2 applicants that are in the MATC Dual Enrollment Academy program. And this is our overall numbers that you asked for. And this actually shows that we have been actively trying to gain more students to participate in this program. Overall, it's about program awareness. Naturally, we try to send out emails. We present information in the fall. We give out Google Classroom posts where all of our students who are in junior and senior classes can see that we are offering these opportunities. And then, of course, individual meetings with counselors upon request by both parents and students are also something that we offer to our students to get them more information about the programs. Naturally, this is about overall, if a student has an interest that we don't provide within our school district, then as a district, we can actually look outside to see if those are opportunities elsewhere. In this case, 4-year or 2-year universities to provide those services for us. And so that's the snapshot. As you can tell, again, we have increased our numbers over the past 2 years here, 3 years here, and we look to add more numbers to these numbers in the fall.
Questions for Dr. Garrison?
I just have a quick question, Dr. Beto.
Yes.
So when was the inception of the early college credit program, Start College MATC? Did it start in 2019, or was there were these programs offered to students before that time?
Yes, the programs, these programs have been around for quite some time. The early college credit program, the Start College Now program. I think the Dual Enrollment Academies program is probably one of the newer ones, but I could be wrong about that. Just food for thought that these programs have been a part of school districts for quite some time now. This is just the data for us for a snapshot, three-year snapshot, but they've been around for a few years now.
Okay.
They did ramp up in 2020, well, actually the pre-pandemic year with ECCP being a very popular option, but they've been around for quite some time.
Any other questions for Dr. Garrison? Dr. Garrison, I do have one question. When I look into 2021, 2022, and we have the number 1 there, many students take more than one course during the year. Are these duplicated numbers or unduplicated numbers?
I can have Mrs. Appleby answer that question. Ms. Appleby?
Yeah. Hello. So good question. And I kind of have my little cheat sheet in front of me with exact numbers. So the 12 students is unduplicated. There were 12 students, but among those 12 students, they actually took 28 courses. So most of our students who do this, they're going to end up taking a class in the fall and the spring. So most often they'll take at least 2 classes over the course of the year. But you can see that of those 12 students, they took 28 courses. Occasionally, we'll get a student that takes just 1 over the year. That's more common when they're a junior, just because their schedule, they still have to fulfill all of their Brown Deer High School requirements. So it's a lot easier for it to fit into a senior schedule who's already fulfilled a lot of their Brown Deer High School graduation requirements, but we do have juniors doing it as well. And the program, I mean, if you go to DPI's website, it outlines all the details too. It is only early college credit and Start College Now are just juniors and seniors. The Dual Enrollment Academy is just seniors.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Appleby. Is there any, I'm sorry.
I thought you said if there are any more people.
No, there was the other part for my question would be is we do only handle this for juniors and seniors. What if we had gifted and talented sophomores? Would that be an option?
For these programs, no, but that's not our criteria, but we would look at other opportunities as well. So for example, our AP courses are also college level courses, right? Our advanced placement courses that we offer.
Okay.
We also have through the African American Youth Institute, there's a Concordia class that happens in the summer. I have had students that have done that prior to their junior year. So there are other pre-college opportunities. This past year, a young man went to UW-Madison for an engineering camp over the summer. So there's other opportunities, but these, it's not our rules. It's the standards that are set forth. Mhm.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Ms. Smith, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Just as far as, so since this is juniors and seniors, I think I'd like to know with regard to the criteria for each program, what number of students, what number of juniors are eligible? And I'm probably speaking more to the counselor because she's probably looked at this. And then what number of seniors are currently eligible? And then kind of juxtapose that against who's participating.
Good question. So there's kind of a lot that's entailed. So when we do a presentation to students, the application deadlines, again, not our deadlines, but as our outline for the program, paperwork is due October 1st.
No, not that. Oh, I'm so sorry. Not the application process, just as far as looking at the criteria. I'm assuming there's a GPA or, attendance, just looking at the criteria, and I'm sure you've already crunched these numbers. How many juniors are eligible for each of these programs, or the ones that are for juniors? What number of our students are eligible? Because I'm seeing a disconnect between who we have eligible and then who's participating. These numbers are a problem for me specifically, because if we have eligible students, then I want them in this program. If it's, getting, the things that I find inconsequential are, did you get your application? And you know what, if I am a teacher in a classroom, I'm a school counselor, I see you're eligible, I'm going to help you walk through that process and make sure you do it just so that you're being the best that you can be. So I guess going back to mine, just so I can, kind of get the data into my head, what percentage, what number of our juniors are eligible for each program? And you can come back with this if this isn't something that you researched in order to get this out to the kids so that they can take advantage of this. And then look at, okay, we have 14 students. So if there's 100 kids that meet the criteria, the 14 students is a problem. I'm just looking at the ECC. So if that's something you need to bring back, I don't know if you have it on the top of your head.
Well, let me just say this real quick. Great question, Mrs. Smith. I think what you have to also remember is if a student has extinguished our programs that we have here offering here in our school district, then they come to us and say, we want to take additional classes.
Right. No, I didn't fail. I understood that from your presentation last month. So I really understood that.
Okay,
so I'd
cool.
like us to drill down and just get the students that are able into the program, not 14 students. If only 14 were eligible, that's a problem. But I would like us to look at who's eligible, who do we need to run down in the hall, whose parents do we need to be calling? You know what, this is an opportunity for your child. We gave him an application, he said no to it. Can you talk to him to see if he wants to get into it?
I understand what you're saying.
Throwing it out there.
Yeah, I understand what you're referring to. I think too it's a, these college courses are also a time-consuming opportunity for our students. A lot of our students have different opportunities that they walk into, whether it be a job that they want to go to after school or responsibilities at home that they have.
Right,
to
no.
well.
I understand the narrative behind it,
yeah,
but just the data. If you could just get me the data, and then you can tease out who does not have time. Okay, Johnny does not have time. He's got a job. I just think that would be a worthwhile to look at.
Okay. We'll work on seeing how many students that would possibly qualify for this.
That meet the criteria.
Right.
And then how many do we have in here? Then we can tease out why they're not in. Maybe they have kids that they have to look after at home. We can tease that out, but I'm sure it's more than four. I'm hoping, I'm not certain that it's more than 14, 12, and 2. I would want that to be what we're doing, just exposing and then going and grabbing those children and getting them into these programs.
Great question. I also want you to remember that even after a kid has expunged our programs, they can still take our AP courses as well. They can take other courses.
No, I
our-
remember in the fall when we went over the AP courses. Yes, the
Okay.
principal was here and she went over that.
Yep.
And then last month, you really were very clear with, your presentation on this. So I think maybe I'll just look at the data if you can get it to me.
Yeah.
And
we'll work on that.
then maybe we can sit down and see why.
What's
I
going
know
on
we're
there.
not looking at this as an achievement, but how can we get it to the point where our numbers are reflecting how we really want?
I think that's something that we can also catch a snapshot in with our strategic plan that we're going to be walking towards in the next year here. Something that we can actually make a goal if that's something that the district wants to move towards in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right, any other questions?
Dr. Beadle, I just have one other question. I do like the idea of making that a goal because I feel like Stacy that we should have a few more students, a lot more students taking advantage of these opportunities. Yeah, just because, yeah, we've got it, we are offering it, and I'd like to see more students taking advantage of these programs. So I'm all for making it a goal as we walk through or begin to dig into our strategic plan.
Great.
Okay, okay, Ms. Peterson.
And this is just a final question out of curiosity. Is there a limit to the number of students that can participate in each one of these programs?
I don't think it's necessarily a limit, but please note that all of these come with a cost, and we haven't turned down any of our students that are interested in these opportunities. But again, naturally, all of this comes with a cost to the school district once we start to open up dual enrollments with other universities. And so we just have to keep that in mind. It's not a limit from the aspect of us saying, yes, students can only take up to a certain amount of credits. There's a limit there, Mrs. Peterson, naturally, because that's part of the rules, not Willie Garrison. But we have not turned down students, from my understanding, over the many years that this program has been here. I think we should also look at, as just a general perspective from a school board and school district, our AP courses, this is also included in that. All of these are extra opportunities for our students to be getting ready for college level opportunities. And so this is part of that bucket. And so yes, although the numbers may not be where anyone wants to see them per se, but please note that we have other things that goes into this bucket for college and career readiness.
Makes sense. Thank you so much.
No problem at
All
all.
right, Ms. Robinson.
I just wanted to say a couple of things that could potentially be helpful. One is education around the programming, of course, is very crucial. As someone who took advantage of this type of program when I was in high school, I saw it as a way to save money. And some students may not think of it that way. So it may be helpful to present to them, okay, if you take these courses over the course of the year, it would save you this much once you get to this particular school or that particular school. The one that really kind of caught my attention was that MATC dual enrollment. I would definitely like to see that participation increase. But then it also could be one other piece I'll say to that as well is it may be helpful to have students who do participate speak to other students about the benefit, even if it's students who have graduated who come back to speak to the students about the benefits of it. So that's something else that could be helpful. It may also be helpful to think about how you spin it, because Dr. Garrison, something that I'm hearing you say is once they've exhausted all the other opportunities we have, then this is an option. And I wouldn't think that they would have to exhaust all other opportunities. I never took an AP class in high school, but after I graduated from high school, I entered college as a sophomore because of the program. So if you're saying that kids have to exhaust everything else, that may potentially be a deterrent versus an attraction to the program.
Duly noted. Thank you for sharing that, Mrs. Robinson.
And I think a couple comments to the last 2 points. So most of the students who participate, it's more that they can't sign up for a class that is comparable to one we offer at Brown Deer High School if they haven't maxed out of our classes here. So for example, psychology is a big one because a lot of colleges have Psych 101, but they'd have to first take our psychology class before they would take that college's psych class. So we don't have a Psych 2. So a lot of students, they've already taken the Brown Deer High School psych class. They'll go to a college to take the Psych 101 at the college. But also it could be something we don't offer. So we have students that do a culinary arts class, a women's studies class, a sociology. So it's not always that they've exhausted it. It's either that it's not, it just can't be comparable to something we have at Brown Deer High School because we are paying for them to take it elsewhere when we have a curriculum here at Brown Deer. And then as far as the previous question about maxing out or things like that, as Dr. Garrison had mentioned, we haven't put any caps on the Dual Enrollment Academy. And talking to our contact at MATC, that is something other districts do because it is so much more expensive than the other 2 opportunities. And so we haven't had that kind of demand where we've had to say, we're only going to take 5 or we're only going to take 6 or 7 because we've thankfully been able to say to all of our students, when we get those requests, I do forward those on to the district office for approval for our 2 or 3 students. But I think that if the volume did grow, because it is such a costly program, that is something that other school districts do put a cap on. And then it does become a little bit more of a competitive process within your school district. And you can only, but we'll cross that bridge if we get there, right? But that is something that I was told other school districts in the area do.
Any further questions? All right, thank you very much for the update. Let's go on now to our facilities and grounds update. Ms. Smyska.
Good evening, Board of Education. I have 2 items for your review tonight. The first one requires no action by the Board of Education. And that is just my monthly memo. So going through it rather quickly, you all have it in front of you. And really this time I reserve for any questions that you may have regarding the memo. But a few items that I want to point out. The first one is that we have been experiencing some issues with the air handler that serves the library. That unit is no longer under warranty. However, because of the relationship that I have developed with Lee Mechanical and that their commitment to standing by their work, they are working on that unit and trying to leak check and find the leaks we've already identified 3 that the unit has. So that is a continuing a repair that they are working on. For us. The second item that I wanted to talk about, and if you do get a chance, I encourage everyone to stop down into the North Commons, the high school cafeteria, to look at the pods that have been delivered and installed. Their placement is not exactly what Molly envisioned from Aramark, but we are going to work on that placement, but you can at least see them, and that'll give you some visual representation of what they are. The third item that I wanted to just briefly discuss is that I did complete the grant application for our digital mapping of our school district. So this was a grant that is being offered through the Department of Justice, the Office of School Safety. And this is something that if we did not have these grant dollars would cost us about $10,000. So this is a great opportunity. That grant application is completed and I don't foresee any problems, but if I do, I will obviously address them. Do any board members have questions on these items or anything else that I have in my memo?
Board members, questions for Ms. Smyska in relationship to her facilities update? All right, thank you very much, Jody. So now the second section is yours as well. You have to give us an update on the Clockworks proposal.
Yep. So with the increase of energy costs across the state, it's not just at our district. We are looking for ways, especially now that this is something that I am going to be managing, we are looking for ways that we can reduce both the demand and the consumption of energy, specifically electric, throughout our district. One of the ways that we can do this is by first identifying the areas that are causing the most consumption or are drawing the most use, as well as looking at the overall demand of our buildings. So those are two factors, and they both fall into how we are billed on a monthly basis for our energy consumption or energy use. I have reviewed a number of different technologies, and Clockworks has been the one that has spoke to me the most. I mean, they have quite a bit of data to support what they do and how they are able to reduce the energy bills for multiple districts. Pewaukee is one of them, but they have multiple districts that they support. So essentially, this is a sub-metering program. So sub-meters are put on each of our meters in the building, and then each of the units is turned off and then on, and it's a simple math equation. So if you start with 100 kilowatts of use, you turn a unit off, and it drops down to 90, and you turn it back on, it goes back up to 100, you know that that unit is drawing 10 kilowatts. So, we go through each of the units that cause big draws. So your typical offenders are kitchen items as well as HVAC equipment. So we identify how much draw each of our big pieces of equipment carry, and then we work to reduce the overall cost of those. So if that means that perhaps during peak use or peak hours, we drop down some of our HVAC operations during the day, and it doesn't cause any disruption in the comfort of our buildings, but it does cause quite a bit of impact to our overall energy bill. So the overall cost for this is not one that would require board approval. However, this is a multi-year agreement, and because of that, I am abiding by policy and bringing it to the board for review and approval. So my recommendation, and there are two different options, there's a fixed cost, and then there's one where essentially whatever cost savings we were to see, we would split with Clockworks. That's not easy to budget for. And so because of the fixed rate proposal being $800 a month, that is what I'm recommending we move towards. There's also a cost of the installation for the meters themselves to $11,512. This is for the middle high school only at this time, but this will meet two objectives of the school district. First and foremost, we'll be able to reduce our energy spend, which is something that we need to be paying attention to over the coming months and years with how inflation has been impacting energy costs across the board. As well as number two, we are able to identify the use of our kitchens, and we can funnel those costs into Fund 80. We can also take a step further, and we can look at the pool and some of those really high energy consuming areas, and we can work on separating some of those costs out into Fund 80. But really the driver of this project is to reduce our spend and to help spend down our Fund 50, which, as you know, we have quite a bit of funds in our food service fund right now. So I know that that's a lot of information. I hope I was clear. I know it can get a little convoluted, but Dr. Beadle, what's your question?
Actually, it's two questions. So once I did the math on this over the 5 years, it'll cost us roughly $60,000 to be able to do that. $48,000 for in monthly fees over the course of the 5 years, and then the $11,000 and change to be able to put the meters in there. So it's about $60,000 over the course of 5 years. I guess my question is if we're paying $800 a month, what is the electric bill for the middle high school a month?
Mm-hmm. So there is a document that I also included that shows the potential savings for the school district. So we are looking at the 2-year costs, from a historic standpoint, is about $500,000 for this building. So if we are only looking at a 10% decrease in that, it would be about $47,000. So and that is on the low end of this. Of course, we want to hope for higher than that, but that is kind of what we're baselining this at.
Okay. Okay. I'm wondering, am I reading this correctly? So I'm looking at this ending bill. I'm looking at I don't know what page number it is because it's not a page number on here, but figure 2 meter, and it says 526.22, just the very top one, and it says total electric ended up being like 13,666.
Yep.
And so that was our last electric bill for only the middle high school, or was it for the district itself?
Nope, that is just for the middle high school. And that is just 1 meter.
Okay. All right. For other board members, questions? Mr. Robinson.
So I wanted to ask the question because on that same page that Dr. Beadle is on, it looks as though over the course of the 2 years, we'll save about 47,000. And then we're splitting that 47,000 with the company. Is it a 50-50 split?
No, so Ms. Robinson, they do offer 2 options. So they offer the fixed rate where we only pay $800 per month, and that does not change at all. But they also offer a variable rate where we would split our savings with them. So on the months where we save $10,000, we would have to pay $5,000 as opposed to $800. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that well? So there's 2 different options. My recommendation is for the fixed monthly rate so that we don't get into that budget, where we don't know what to budget for because the number can be high or it could be low.
Okay, I was thinking you were saying we had to split the savings with them plus pay $800
No.
a month, and I was like,
No,
wait,
I'm
wait.
sorry. Nope, they're
Okay.
2 separate
All right,
options.
thank you. That stops my next question because I was getting ready to be like, wait a minute, hold on. Okay.
I'm sorry, I must have explained that poorly. Go ahead, Ms. Peterson.
I was just looking, this is a multi-year agreement. How many years is this agreement in place for, and when will it have to be reviewed again?
So this is a 5-year agreement.
5 years. And then as it's associated with the installation of the meters, is there any type of maintenance costs associated with these meters, or if they go down or go out or anything of that nature? How are they repaired and where does the cost come from to do that?
So the meters are included in the cost of this agreement. If there are issues with that, Clockworks would support any service that the meters need.
And that's the 11,500 some odd dollars.
That's correct.
And that would handle both of the meters.
That's correct. It's about 5,400 each, or I'm sorry, 5,700 each.
Okay.
But that's just the installation of the meters, correct?
Yep, that's
So
correct.
what I'm referencing is if something goes wrong with the meters or anything of that nature, you're saying that they would split the cost with us?
No, if anything goes wrong with the meters themselves, they would be repaired by Clockworks. And
Okay.
so that has nothing to do with the savings that we would see on a monthly basis.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions that I can answer?
Board members, questions? Okay, well, this is actually one that actually needs a motion for approval. Would someone like to make a motion to approve?
Yes, Dr. Vito, if I can make a motion to approve the 5-year fixed rate Clockwork proposal as it has been presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. A motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I can second Dr. Beater.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, here and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye. Why am I missing somebody? Okay, there we go. Dorothea's moved. Okay, all right, thank you. Motion carries unanimously 7-0.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much, board.
All right, let's go on to our next item is approval of new hires. Mr. Clemming.
Good evening, members of the board. We have several new faces that'll be joining the school district this fall. Before you tonight, I'm asking for approval for the hiring of Haley Wiersba, who is the new elementary school psychologist, Gabriela De Felice, who's the new 8th grade English teacher, Kayla Hoppenthal, a middle school 8th grade math teacher, Linda Stone, a special education teacher at the middle school, and Aaron Boyd, the high school physical education teacher.
All right, thank you very much. Would someone like to make motions for these new hires?
I would,
Hires
if I could, I would ask you that you just do a separate motion for Haley, just because as a school psychologist, I did post her contract. It's a slightly different contract because of the number of days involved for school psychologists. So if you could do that as a separate motion, but the other 4 are teachers, all with the same start date, you could do that as one motion if you wanted to.
Okay, well, Kevin, I guess the question for this just says for the 2022-2023 academic year, so it doesn't have a start date.
That's fine. I mean, but I guess I'd like to just differentiate Haley because she isn't a teacher. She's got a different contract set up. So if we could just do that one separately, that'd be great. It's akin to last month or when you did like the accountant and the networking. Those are different employment contracts than a teaching contract. So.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much. So we will take note of that and make motions separately for the school psychologists, and the education teachers. All right, so someone like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Haley?
Dr. Beadle, I will make a motion to approve the hiring of Haley Wiersma as an elementary school psychologist for the 2022-23 school year.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. A motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Dr. Beadle, I'll second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion has been made, seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and/or aye. Our motion carries unanimously 7-0. We now welcome Haley to our elementary school as our psychologist for the 2022-2023 school year. All right, welcome to the team. All right. So now, would someone like to make a motion for the approval of the hiring of Gabriella, Kayla, Linda, and Aaron? You're on mute.
I will make a motion to approve the hiring of Gabriella De Felice as a middle school English teacher, Kayla Happenthal as a middle school math teacher, Linda Stone as a middle school special education teacher, and Aaron Boyd as a high school physical education teacher for the 2022-23 academic school year.
We do have a. I did it. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second for the hires?
I will second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor of the hiring of our new teachers for the academic school year with a raised hand and/or aye? All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0. So now we'd like to welcome Gabriella, Kayla, Linda, and Aaron to the Brown Deer team. Thank you very much. And we look forward to having some wonderful things from you and educating our students at the highest levels possible. All right, let's move forward. Let's go on to our item E. Mr. Clemick, approval of resignations.
We do have a few resignations this evening. We have Tess Kautzer, who's an elementary school instructional coach, Alyssa Salzwedel, who is a K-4 teacher at the elementary school, Emma Adler, 8th grade English, Leah Bishop, a special education teacher, and Joshua Mack, a special education teacher, both at the high school. And of the 5, I have received liquidated damages from Alyssa Salzwedel, but the other 4 I'd like to do with pending liquidated damage, pending receipt of liquidated damage.
All right, so when we make the motions, we will approve those, including the liquidated damages.
Correct.
All right. All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve the resignations of Tess, Alicia, Emma, Leah, and Joshua? Ms. Robinson, I believe you're on mute.
Apologies for that. I would like to make a motion to approve the resignation of Tess Kautzer. Can I do them together or do they need to be separate, Kevin?
We've generally done them separately.
Okay.
Sorry, we've generally done them separately, but we're working on getting language to fix that in the future, I think.
Okay,
And then we have to, oh, sorry. Oh, and we have to anyway, because some of them have the pending liquidated damages associated with it.
Yeah, that was where my question was coming in. Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the resignation of test counselor as elementary school instructional coach effective July 29th, pending the receipt of liquidated damages.
All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Dr. Vito, I will second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye? All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0 to approve the resignation of test counselor pending liquidated damages. All right, can we have a motion for the resignation of Alicia?
I will make a motion to approve the resignation of Alyssa Salzwezel as elementary school teacher effective July 29th, 2022.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, Ms. Ashley seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah.
She's raised her hand.
She's on mute though.
I know, but
There we go.
I just have a quick question. Have we moved to the question part of this or?
No,
Yeah,
we thought you were making a second.
Oh, no, I'm not seconding it. I had a question and that
Okay,
has
well-
to deal with, go ahead.
All right, we've got to get a second first before we go to discussion.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Robinson. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Now,
Ms.
I will
Ashley?
ask yeah, should we state that we have already received her liquidated damages here?
It's not that necessary. Just wanted to make sure that we were clear that for the teachers who haven't paid yet, that the board is not releasing them from their contract until we do receive it. So,
Okay.
but since we already did, it's fine.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with a raised hand and or aye? All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0 for the accept the resignation of Alyssa Salweddle. All right. Next, resignation of Emma Adler.
I will make a motion to approve the resignation of Emma Adler as middle school English teacher effective July 29th, 2022, pending the receipt of liquidated damages.
All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second Dr. Vito.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, raise hand and or aye. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0 to approve the resignation of Emma Adler. All right, would someone like to make a motion for to accept the resignation of Leah Bishop?
I will make a motion to approve the resignation of Leah Bishop as high school special education teacher effective July 29th, 2022, pending the receipt of liquidated damages.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Ms. Smith, thank you very much. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0 to approve the resignation of Leah Bishop. And last, would someone like to make a motion to approve the resignation of Joshua Mack?
I would like to make a motion to approve the resignation of Joshua Mack as high school special education teacher effective July 29th, 2022, pending the receipt of liquidated damages.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion made. Second, please.
Second. I'll
All right.
second it.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just kind of a quick question for all of these. We had 5 of them, and I think I saw one letter of resignation. Are we not receiving those, or are you all just not sharing them?
I apologize. They come to multiple sources, so we can make sure we do share those with you. we did receive them all through email, but sometimes they go to certain places and sometimes they go to other. I don't always have them. Sometimes I have them as forwards from other people. So we'll make sure that you see all 5 of them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and we need to also ensure that everyone's doing exit interviews as well.
Yes, they're being extended to all employees, whether they participate or not. It's always up to the employee.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Any other question? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with raised hand and/or aye. Motion carries unanimously 7-0 to approve the resignation of Joshua Mack. All right, so we've gone through our resignations. We hope all of these individuals well in their future endeavors. And as we always say, once a Falcon, always a Falcon. All right, let's move forward. Let's go on to item F. Mr. Clemick, our 2021-2022 budget update.
Yeah, so we are busy in the business office trying to close out the 21-22, or as we call it, the 22 fiscal year. We're not quite there yet, but we are pretty close that we're within, probably $100,000 one way or the other. And we feel very confident to know, just as the last bills come in, that we will experience another surplus. And this year, I have a much better handle on maintenance of effort for those of you who were here with us last year and know that that was a challenge. And I didn't want to have an issue with that going forward. So we will be fine on maintenance of effort for special education. So right now, we're just looking at what do we do with the surplus. And I do want to, as we talk about the amount of it, I just do want to stress, and I have it in bold in the report just to kind of let people know that while we do have a significant amount of money that we have underspent this year, it is primarily due to our staffing situation where we had shortages throughout the year. So when you look at a line, and we always do this, we kind of work with Fund 27 first, because once we figure out what the revenue and expenses of what the expenses of that, then the last piece of revenue is that transfer from Fund 10. So we have to kind of calculate that piece first. So when you look at Fund 27, we under budget, or we over budgeted about $370,000 in special education aids. So we tried as best we could to have as many folks as we could. We were never able successfully to be fully staffed, and then when we did have people, they may not have been here every day. So the expenses we tied to them were not always consumed. And then we also have to budget for all benefits and things like that, and not every person takes the benefit. So there's a little bit of savings there. So we did look at that. So that's obviously a very large piece of what we saw in the special education budget. We did also have a number of our licensed teachers leave, and it took a while to fill some of those positions. So that's the first line you see there of $140,000 in savings. As part of my noviceness to the budgeting, I did carry over a $50,000 line that we had for specific alternative schools that we didn't have any students in this year. So that was money we didn't have to spend. And then a few other things. You see that pupil transportation, that part isn't from Right Way, but that's from those ancillary transportation companies that we have to use. So that was actually up higher, and because there were obviously fuel costs with those that we wouldn't have anticipated. So when you look at the entire picture of Fund 27, we're looking at an approximate total savings of about $650,000 from start to finish. And again, because the expenses are down, that means we can reduce the transfer from our operating fund to Fund 27. So that will automatically right away see a large savings in Fund 10. So if we scroll down to the second part where we look at the savings in Fund 10, again, we had another chunk of teacher salaries and benefits, about $400,000 that were specifically because, again, we had openings. And sometimes those costs were covered by substitutes, or sometimes those positions required substitutes. Sometimes they didn't. When the data assessment coordinator leaves, or when the gifted and talented instructor leaves, those positions are basically vacant and unsubbed for while those are being filled. But even then, with the positions we did have open, like the middle school STEM or middle school Spanish, which were for more than half of the year, we didn't, the cost of long-term subs, either through teachers on call or subs we employed, is, you know, cheaper than paying a full-time teacher. This is not our goal. This is not the way we obviously want to do it, but that's one of the reasons why you're seeing the savings that we had. And then there were a few other things. The after-school programs didn't spend as much money as they had planned originally. We did save a little bit of money from what was budgeted between vouchers and open enrollment. But then again, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that were higher than we anticipated with budget. We added that contracted nursing. We had more students in Kiel than we had originally planned for. Substitute costs, and when I say that, that is the budgeted cost for both teachers on call, and then will be paid teachers to cover in preps or other substitutes we brought in. So that was also higher. Utilities were also significantly higher. We did have pupil transportation, which came in just a little bit under budget, and I wasn't sure at the end because of the huge fuel surcharges we've been paying over the last several months. Even though we were on 7 routes for most of the year, those fuel surcharges were getting us closer and closer to what we had originally budgeted. And then you add that transfer. So we're really looking at about $1 million as savings. And again, I just want to stress, I know people look at that and say, well, you have a lot of extra money on an annual basis, but I didn't really budget this year with a lot of extra if you want to call it fat in preparation for this year. We had planned for using a lot of ESSER 3 as part of it because we knew we had these needs for students. And it just happened that we weren't able to always have those positions filled for the entire part of the year. So it's certainly the goal this year, and the budget that I presented to you is for the upcoming school year has the same mindset I had last year, which was we're going to fill all of these positions and we have to be prepared to, you know, have the funds available for that. So that's really the goal. So just wanted to reiterate that again. But going back to, as we close out this year, this previous year, with this $1 million surplus, the board has an option as to what you want to do with it. We are at about 20% of fund balance right now with our Fund 10, which we are exceeding the district's policy as to where the Fund 10 balance should be. So what I am going to recommend is that we make a second transfer to Fund 46, which is our long-term capital improvement trust fund. Last year, we put $250,000 over there. This would put us at about $1 million. And this is money then that we set aside. We basically expense it this year. It counts as a shared cost for DPI standpoint, which will actually mean we're going to get a little bit more equalization aid than what we had even budgeted, because this again counts as something we're spending the money. And then that money sits in our capital improvement project fund that we can then use for outstanding projects that we have to work on. And I'm certainly looking to use that money for larger ticket items that would prevent us from having to take out loans or have to take a huge hit in the operating budget from year to year. So the board is certainly welcome to have a discussion as to what that looks like. But again, last year we were about the same place, and we spent $250,000 and sent it over to Fund 46. We kept $750 in Fund 10, and this year I'm just looking to kind of flip that and put $750 into Fund 46 and 250 or so in Fund 10. And this is just the rule from DPI is that this transfer has to occur before July 30th. So that's why I'm asking you for permission to do it this evening. Are there any questions?
Ms. Peterson.
Kevin, thank you so much for the report and enlightening us on this. But one quick question to you. We're putting these funds over into this fund 46 for future capital projects. But is there a certain amount of time that we have to be able to utilize these funds, or can they stay in there for any uncertain amount of time? Like, do we have 2 or 3 years before we need to use them, or can you help me understand that just a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah, there aren't a lot of restrictions on the use of those funds. There is no time limit. You can use them. Okay. There's a time limit. There was a waiting period when the funds first were created, and that was 7 or 8 years ago. So we are now eligible that any money we put in can be used immediately if you want to. Okay. The only caveat is that it has to be used on something on the district's board-approved long-term capital improvement list, not necessarily long-term, but capital improvement list, which we are working on revising right now, and we'll be presenting that to you very shortly, so you can have that updated list. But the reality is, on the list are, air handling units, large pieces of capital equipment. We're talking about, anything building-wise that we may need to do. We obviously, one of the things we'll be talking about very shortly is a roof section that'll need to be done. That was something that can be used for this. So, pavement, other things like that. So we'll have an exhaustive list that will allow us basically to spend on any, major sort of expense that we would have to do.
That sounds great. And there is no opportunity once these funds are moved over. There's no opportunity if we get in some type of financial crisis in Fund 10 that we can come back and move some of these funds back. Once they're moved, they're moved.
Correct, but you could, you can certainly put things on the long-term capital list that you would normally be paying out of Fund 10. And so you could, in a year that you needed to do that, if you were in a situation, we could put some things on the list that would allow us to basically reduce the operating budget for facilities and grounds and just shift the money over there. So I'm not concerned about that. I do know that, it's been several years since we've had to spend major dollars on some things, and we have some things that were done in the 2012 referendum that are starting to get to a point where we're going to have to do some work on them. I won't ruin your evening with any of those or costs right now, but we know they're coming that we're going to have to talk about. And this is at least one way that we can have some of that money set aside that won't impact us either through having to borrow or, another referendum question or anything like that. So
great. Sounds good. Kevin, thank you so much again.
All right, any other further questions?
So I am recommending the $750,000 number, but that's certainly open to discussion by the board.
All right.
Dr. Beto,
Ms.
point of
Beadle, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
just a point of clarification. So I think you're looking for a motion to transfer 750 to Fund 46 and then 250 to Fund 10?
No, you don't. This is just the transfer to
That was
Fund
the budget
46.
update.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
That was just
you.
the budget
Yeah.
update.
I
Dr.
apologize.
Ashley.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What'll happen is the remainder, which is it'll be something around 250, but that's going to fluctuate as we finish up the year. So I don't know the amount, but whatever the remainder is, that will remain in fund balance for Fund 10. So that's going to go up as well. So we will still be exceeding 20%. So we're still putting a little bit there and just transferring a certain amount into Fund 46.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
No problem. Yeah. So the only thing I need board permission is the amount that we're transferring to Fund 46.
Okay, and that is the 750,000. Okay. So, Dr. Beadle, I'd like to make a motion to approve a transfer as presented to Fund 46 of $750,000.
And if you could mention the fiscal year, the 21-22 fiscal year, please.
During the fiscal year of 2022 to 2023? No?
21 to 22.
21 to 22.
I'm sorry, my apologies. 2021 to 2022 fiscal year.
All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Walker. The motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion and or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. All right, motion carries unanimously, 720. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Clemming. All right, let's go on to our next item is initial review of the professional handbook. Dr. Kelsey Brown?
This is actually me as well.
Mr. Clement.
Yep, it's also me. So I'm going to read it from start to finish. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not going to read it. I will not be reading the employee handbook. But what I just wanted to do is get it in front of you. This is a draft of where we are at. As you know, or as you may not know, it has been several years, not without the effort of my predecessors have tried, but we have not been able to update the handbook and get it into a cycle of review that we should be. So for the first time in a while, we are going to be issuing a new employee handbook. This is the first of 3 that we have in the district. This covers professional educators and administrators. And then there's a handful of the professional technical people. Those are the ones that are on contracts, like the accountant. Those all fall in this category. So what I just wanted to present to you for not really for review, but just explain to you how we came about the handbook. It's really 2 pieces that we've done. We've taken Neola as part of our policy work provides us with handbook language, and so they actually kind of set the order and kind of help the organization of the handbook. And so a lot of the legal things that we have in there, when you're talking about discrimination or FMLA and things like that, that language is taken from Neola primarily. But then but their handbooks are also fairly simplistic, and there isn't a lot of additional information in there that we thought, when we compared it to what the old handbook said, we thought there's important information that we need to include. So we then took some of the best pieces of the previous handbook as well and have kind of combined those two. So you're going to see there's a combination of things in here. So obviously some very specific things, and then we've added since then. We know that there are some things that we wanted to clarify or change a little bit. We haven't made any huge policy changes to the handbook. My first goal was to get it out there and get it into people's hands so people can understand what the policies and processes of the school district are. My goal would then be on an annual basis, late fall, winter time, that we would start having conversations about things we wanted to change in the handbook, and then have those conversations over the spring, and then be able to present to you a revised handbook every spring or early summer to approve for the following school year. So we're a little behind. I've been working on this for quite a while, but obviously other things also kind of take some of my time. So I wanted to share with you this first draft of the handbook, and it is divided in sections. Just looking at some of the employment specific things, a lot of the legal issues. Does talk about employment status and records. We have a section on employee compensation, benefits, all the rules with the various types of leaves that are available to employees, working hours, condition of work, safety and health, communication and technology, and conduct and disciplinary action. So this book is about 60 pages long. It will be something that we will be having, we will be sharing with all of our staff, and they will be signing that they have received it. So there won't be any question as part of the employment process, so that if there are any issues that come up, we can all point to the book to look at. So so that's kind of where we're at. This has also been reviewed by a group of teachers that wanted to be a part of the review process, and some of their suggestions were taken into consideration. So we're looking to not approve it tonight, but I wanted to get it in front of you and explain to you kind of the process and give you a little while to digest it, so you can look it over the next several weeks if you have any specific questions. My goal would be perhaps to have this one approved in 2 weeks at our first August meeting. And then I'll also be sharing with you, there's 2 other handbooks that are coming. They're in the final stages of being drafted. They're for support staff, and then a separate one for custodians. And the only reason we keep those separate is that there are some benefit differences between those 2 groups still. And so for now, we're going to keep the 3 handbooks total, but there's a lot of information that's the same, that you'll see similarities, especially on the legal side when you're talking about employment law, that you're going to see updated in both. Now, we've also heard through Neola that they are behind in updating their handbooks, their handbook language. So this is actually coming, we started this process back in the winter. So I have really alerted the staff that we may need to update this at some point throughout the year, in case if something legal changes, we may have to update it. My goal would be not to do that on a regular basis, do it once a year and go through a review process and do it. But we're prepared that if something major, either through a legal change, or if there's an omission that we've missed, the language in the disclaimer to say we can change it at any point in time. We may have to take advantage of that during this initial year of the re-release of the handbook, but I'm hoping in the future that it'll just be an annual cycle that we'll go through, and so that employees will understand what the rules are at the start of the year, and we'll keep it consistent throughout the rest of the fiscal year. So, so that is the quick story about it. And if you have any, I don't know if you have any questions now, or if, again, you can look at it and feel free to either share feedback now or through email over the course of the next couple of weeks, because I would like to, present it for approval with the board on August 9th, I believe.
Kevin, question for you. So when I've been going through some of it or whatever. Now, did you want us under that employee compensation, that under pay and compensation for current staff? You've still got that effective date with the 2016-2017 school year in here?
That's when the salary grid was implemented.
But now that's when the grid was, but didn't we change the grid? Haven't we changed the grid?
Well, we've changed the values of it, but the structure is still the same. I mean, that hasn't changed, the 4 lanes. So while the numbers shift on an annual basis, but that's still the plan. You move one step, here's the amounts. The values have shifted, but we haven't fundamentally changed how the plan is structured though at this point.
Would it be more advantageous for us to be able to, since we're going to be updating this manual, that we use the specific years that we are going to be using the grid?
We could. I mean, obviously, I don't have an updated grid yet because we haven't come to an agreement with the BDA at this point. So I don't have anything to, say has changed officially. I guess I was looking at it just so teachers know there is a salary grid. We may update it, from year to year, but again, it's just the numbers change, but and which happens in every district. Those grids make adjustments either through inflation or whatever the cause may be, but the grid itself and the whole structure of the compensation model is pretty set. So I'm just letting people know that that's what the structure looks like, and they can always see the updated version of what it happens to look like for that particular calendar year. Because it may, we want these in place by July 1 on a given year, but we may or may not have any updated information with the grid. That's why I'm not including the grid in the handbook, but it will be available on our website and it'll be available for staff to see whenever it is updated.
All right, this was information only for us right now at this current time, correct?
Correct. Yes. If you have comments tonight, or I know I sent it to you on Friday. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
I don't
wanted
know if everybody got an opportunity to read through. I read through maybe half of it.
Sure.
So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Board members, I've got a question for you. Do you guys think that by the next board meeting you've got an opportunity to read through this on top of everything else that we've got? And then you said that there'll be two additional handbooks that'll be coming?
Yes, although you'll be able to see a lot of the titles will be exactly the same, and I can highlight the areas that are different. Because there's as you note in here, one of the things that I was trying to do is make sure that our policies and administrative guidelines are referenced in the handbook. So if those change, you click on it, it'll still take you to our website, and you can see what the actual language is in case we make an adjustment to the policy. There are different policies in general for professional staff and support staff. So that all the professional staff, the administrators are usually in the 1,000s, professional staff are in the 3,000s, support staff are in the 4,000s. So you're going to see a lot of the same sections with just slightly different language, or they'll be referring to a different policy. But there are other things. I mean, the grievance procedure is a little different for support staff. And again, the benefits are different. So I will certainly be able to point to you in a direction as to what sections are fundamentally different for your review. Obviously, the board should take the time that it needs to, but also we'd love to get it in place as soon as possible at the start of the school year. But we have gone several years without updating them, so we'll whatever we need to do, we'll do. But I would also say too, I think, again, we'll be communicating that if we do notice something that we have to address, we may address it during the school year. So if that happens, I guess I wouldn't let perfection, what is the saying? Don't let perfection be the enemy of or what is it? Well, I don't want to not do it in the effort of just making it absolutely perfect. I think if we get a lot of it in place, and then if we have to make a tweak or two at some point, I'd rather do that than delay it too long into the school year. But obviously it's at the board's discretion is how you want to handle that.
So board members, do you think you'll have enough time to read through all three manuals by our meeting? That'll be what? Our next meeting
August
is
9th.
August 9th.
I should qualify. I'm hoping that you'd approve this one on August 9th. I will try to get you the other two via email, but you could approve those 2 weeks later. I'm just trying to get the teachers show up on August 15th. So it would be nice to have the teaching handbook done by then. So the other two I can try to share with you as soon as they're done, and then you could approve them 2 weeks later if we had to, because some of those staff have already started. I mean, they're already started. I'm just trying to get the teaching one done before the teachers actually arrive would be a goal.
All right,
I had a question.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Hold on. All right, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, my question was, I did have a chance to look through this, and that was very extensive, and I think it was very well done. But my question was more, we talked about the process and procedures and the policies for students and teachers interacting, and a tool to support that for safety and disciplinary. And I don't see any of that included onto this document that you provided. So I was just wondering, is that going to be a separate document?
Which part are you referring to? Just to
Yes,
I'm referring to.
Oh,
I'm familiar with what you're asking, Lisa. Yes,
Okay.
that additional information you're referencing will be highlighted or come alive, if you will, in the student handbook. So that's where the majority of that information can be found. And building administrators are very close to having their handbooks completed by building, elementary, middle, and high school. So that's why you will not see that information in the staff handbook.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Because I was going to ask the question, I'm like, okay, we've getting all this stuff for the staff, handbooks and all the rest of the stuff. What about the one for the parents and for the students? We want to make sure that they have their handbooks ready prior to school starting for them to be able to read through, sign off, and do that necessary stuff as well too. So that one will be coming from your office, Dr. Kelsey Brown, correct?
Yes.
And so that would be coming to us also at the next school board meeting?
At the board retreat. It will be presented at the board retreat.
Okay.
It sounded like Dr. Beadle and Ms. Walker were asking two separate questions though. So correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but weren't you asking about the staff responsibility in terms of safety?
The staff one is in here though. The staff one is in this one. I think she was.
Okay.
Lisa.
I was talking about the interaction with students and teachers that Dr. Kelsey Brown was referring to.
Okay.
That's the portion, how we're going to handle things between students and teachers for the school year.
It'll be in the student handbook.
Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any other further questions for Mr. Clemming?
Again, if you, I've been tasked on the employee handbook side. Obviously, the administrators are working on the student ones independently. But if you do, over the course of the time when you do get a chance to read, if you have any questions, feel free to fire off a question or comment. And if there's something we have to adjust, we'll certainly look at it before the final draft is approved. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clemming. Let's go on to item number 6. Our board reports, our SWSA legislative update. Ms. Walker.
I did attend the Zoom meeting on July 12th, and it was a very extensive overview of the legislative branch process.
5 times real fast.
Et cetera, right? Et cetera. Dr. Kelsey Brown can appreciate it. It was a very long meeting and very detail oriented. I think the main takeaway from the previous after has been that Maura Zini has resigned as the executive director of the SWSA. And so now Dr. Kelsey Brown will be tasked with being on the committee to find a new representative or a new person to take that position.
And I think I believe as of, well, so the meeting was today, and just to bring the board up to date, it sounds as if Faith Vanderhorst, who used to be a board president in Menominee Falls, will be serving as the interim executive director until a search can be conducted to fill the position. But I think Myra she wasn't with us not even a month, but left for personal reasons. So, but the advocacy work will continue through SWSA as we move forward.
Ms. Ashley, you had something?
No, I was just gonna ask. I thought she just got appointed to that position like 2 weeks ago.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Walker.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to our WASB update.
So my report is pretty small, or for lack of a better word, there's not a lot of information to report out on, except for the fact that there is a fall regional, the fall regional dates and locations have been released for WASB's lineup for the fall regional meetings that happen between September 28th and November 2nd. And then again, as always, there is a chock full of resources and information on WASB's website. And I just encourage board members to go there for the up-to-date webinars and classes and just updates in terms of all things WASB.
All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go to our Ed Foundation report, Ms. Robinson.
No report for me this month. We had our summer break for this month, so no meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. And Parks and Rec, Ms. Smith.
Our July meeting was canceled, so I should have something after the August meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, let's move on to our item number 7, our planning calendar I'm not going through all of these. I'm just gonna let you know, August 4th is the forms and fees. The 5th is the summer board retreat. The 9th is our special board meeting. The 10th is athletic booster club. And then the 15th to the 19th is the new teacher orientation. And the 17th is going to be our joint meeting with the Village of Brown Deer and our virtual meeting. And then by then we'll have our next upcoming board meeting, and then we can go through all the rest of the dates on here.
Dr. Brito, may I just clarify the August 4th forms and fees? Our forms and fees is, registration is online, all throughout, registering for the school year. So if you just delete the August 4th date, that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should August 6th be on this list?
We can add it.
We can add it. We can
Okay.
add it. Yeah, August 6th is the district administrator evaluation. All right. All right. With that being said, go on to item number 8, a motion to be able to go into closed session to discuss the district administrator evaluation. Would someone like to be able to make a motion?
So moved.
Is that Ms. Ashley?
Yes.
All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walker. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, let's go to roll call vote. Ms. Ashley?
Beto,
Aye.
Daniels Ashley. Aye. Peterson,
Aye.
Walker. Robinson,
Aye.
Macon,
Aye.
Smith.
Or aye.
All right,
Alright.
and the ayes have it.
All right, carries 7-0. We will now go into closed session at 7:23 p.m. We will not come back into open session because we are not voting on anything to coming back out. So all of our members of the community, thank you very much for attending our District of Brown Deer School Board meeting. Enjoy the remainder of your evening and this beautiful weather that we have, and then all of the different festivals and everything else that are getting ready to happen. So enjoy yourselves until the next time we meet. Have a good one. Thank you.